Yesterday, September 25th, we got the very first episode for Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings. Hello everyone, I'm OCDsaster, and this is OCDsaster Blue, a Sonic exclusive channel. The only thing we post here is Sonic content, so if that is something you're interested in, please consider subscribing to the channel. Now, what I just said was a lot. Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, what the heck is that? Well, Sonic X Shadow Generations is an upcoming game that will be almost a remake, not totally, of Sonic Generations. It's basically a polished up version of the original game, but then they have an additional story where you can play as Shadow the Hedgehog and do a side story that is completely new with original in the sense that they're remaking some of the classic stages that Shadow has been in, and even throw in some old boss battles to boot. In addition, Doom has returned for this story. We're not quite sure what part he plays yet. And then you have Dark Beginnings, which is an animation prologue to this game. The animated prologue for Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings is divided into 3 different episodes. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we just got the first episode yesterday, and we will be getting 2 more episodes in October prior to Sonic X Shadow Generations release on October 25th. This is not the first time Sonic Team and Sega have done this for a Sonic game. They actually started doing animation prologues for Sonic Frontiers, and because that did such a good job at marketing the game and getting some traction, they decided to do it again for Sonic X Shadow Generations, which I think is a smart idea because it's been a while since Shadow has been the main focus in a Sonic game. He has a kind of complex canonicity and backstory, so this will really help show where Shadow is in the story and how it's leading up to the game. The first episode of Dark Beginnings is only 6 minutes long, but it is action-packed. We start off with Shadow and Maria in the Space Colony arc, which then evolves into a really cool fight scene between Shadow and Emerald. But then after that, Shadow goes through a nightmare montage and then wakes up, but says it was more than just a nightmare, leading us into a mystery on what is going on with Shadow. So let's go ahead and quickly rewind and break down this episode a little bit further. I'm not going to show you any footage from that because I believe you should go check it out on the Sonic the Hedgehog YouTube channel and give the support to the artists and voice actors that worked on the project. So please go watch that and then come back here for my little analysis. It's not a long episode, but I wasn't expecting too much in that field either. We really don't get a lot of new developments with this first episode. It's kind of just filling in a little bit of intrigue and kind of refreshing our minds of where Shadow was 50 years ago as he and Dr. Gerald are trying to find a cure for Maria. There's some flashes forward to Maria being murked, is the best way to put it for YouTube policy, and it shows Emerald, who hasn't really been established in Shadow lore in his backstory ever. So it's very interesting why Emerald's there. When we first open up and just have Shadow and Maria talking, it's very nice dialogue. The music swells. It's very emotional. It's very beautiful. I really enjoyed it. The only thing that felt a little bit odd was this is kind of like pseudo 2D, 3D animation, meaning that it is 3D animated to an effect, but it's meant to look hand-drawn almost, kind of in that Spider-Verse style, but not as, flashy. And it doesn't look that great when the characters are kind of just idle and not doing any big actions. So that was a little bit off-putting to me. But besides that, it was a really touching moment between Shadow and Maria, talking about her illness, talking about how Shadow kind of feels like he's not doing his end of the bargain of protecting her and keeping her safe. They touch hands for a second, and it flashes forward to, like I said, Maria getting gone. And Shadow's like, well, what's happening? And then Emerald shows up, goes over to Dr. Gerald. Shadow runs over, and there's no dialogue between Dr. Gerald or Shadow, but there's a fight between Shadow and Emerald. Once again, no dialogue is there, but the fight scene is awesome. The actual fighting and movement, and that's why I said when the animation of the characters are more idle, it's kind of weird, but when they're fighting and moving, it looks fluid, it looks crisp. The impact, the sound design, it was an awesome fight. I wish it was just a smidge bit longer. But then we kind of go into this nightmare sequence for Shadow. He's just like shattering realities. He's seeing Dr. Geralt chained up in his chair in a room where there's handwriting all over the walls, which is a throwback to Sonic Adventure 2, the last story. And then they actually show a firing squad pointing at Dr. Geralt. They don't show anything, but they allude to that event still happening. And then it has this corridor where Shadow is chasing after Dr. Geralt in that chair, and he keeps going further and further back. It's dark, it's eerie, it's creepy, it's like dim lit. It's really, really cool. The way they did that sequence was amazing. Shadow kind of spirals out of control a little bit, and then he wakes up and basically bursts chaos, spear, burst, whatever, a tree as he awakens from his nightmare. He says this is more than just a nightmare, and that it started when he gazed up upon the Space Colony Ark, which is damaged up in the sky, and he's like, I need to find answers, and then he runs off. And that's the end of the first episode. Now, I think this is a really good little taste, a teaser for what is to come, but I need a little bit more substance than this. It just wasn't enough to really get me to understand what's going on, which I think is the idea, which is why they're building up. I just hope the next few episodes are a little bit longer than 6 minutes to really fulfill that need in that story building, because we need to know, 1, why Doom is back, 2, why Shadow has to go back into his past, and 3, kind of figure out where this is in Shadow's timeline, because in the animation it says it's during present day, but is that present day like now, or is it present day like during when Sonic Generations was happening, which was over a decade ago now, I believe. It's been a long time since that game came out. Overall, it made its mark. It did what it needed to do, and that is to provide mystery and intrigue. So I am really hoping Episode 2 really cranks it up a notch. I don't need to see as much action as I do need to see those narrative beats to get us to right up to when Sonic X Shadow Generations releases. What did you guys think of the Episode 1 of Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, the animated prologue to the game? I'm really interested into your thoughts down below. I think besides those brief moments when the characters were still and talking, it was phenomenal. The fighting was absolutely great. The lighting was perfect. The music swelling was beautiful and emotional. And I really think they have something special here if they decide to keep going in the direction that I think they're going. I'm really interested to see how Doom plays into all this, along with where this is in the Sonic timeline. The Sonic timeline is a little bit messy, so it is going to be interesting to see where they put this all, how much they reveal of Shadow's backstory. And it just makes perfect sense, because with the Sonic Movie 3 coming out at the end of the year in December, just a few months after Sonic X Shadow Generations, it's perfect marketing and filling people in and reminding people of Shadow's backstory, so when they adapt it for the big screen, people have a little bit more of a fresh memory of what's going on with Shadow, because he has been put in the back burner for a lot of current Sonic games. So I just think it's really good marketing strategy to have this game and these, pieces of content come out before the movie comes out, because people will be a little bit more, attuned to what's going on, and they can understand generally who Dr. Joe Robotnik is and some of these other beats that they're going to be hitting in the Sonic movie that won't necessarily be as complex as the video games, but will still be the foundation for those things. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for sticking to the end. If you did, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and once again, if you like Sonic content, please consider subscribing to the channel. That's all we do here. I'm OCDsaster, and I hope you have a super Sonic rest of your day. See ya.